It's a new year and a brand new growing season isn't far off now. I can't wait. Well, we can dream, can't we? Hi, I'm Ben, and in today's video, I'm going to show you how I plan the coming growing season. There's a lot to do, and we'll need to look back at what grew where last year to get it right. So let's get started. The first thing is to consider the layout of this raised bed area. I love raised beds because they drain a bit better, which is a really important consideration because in this garden it gets very wet in the winter. That means because they drain through a bit quicker, I can get on and plant and sow a little bit earlier in the spring. But what I especially love about raised beds is the way they zone the garden. You can tackle one bed at a time and it keeps everything really nice and tidy. Now, have a look at these beds here. You can see at the corners here, they're beginning to fall apart. I'm going to remove the sides, dig out all the soil and put that aside, and then perhaps put in more of these pallet collar beds, which I really like. They're nice and a nice size and they're very easy. They fold out beautifully and you can pop them in. Let's just remove them from my plan here and replace them with smaller beds. I'm using our online garden planner. And this is actually now iPad compatible, which is really handy because it means I can make changes on the fly. And I can also make changes on the sofa with my feet up. That's the way to do it. I'm also going to add two completely new beds. One's going to go in this gap here and another just on the end here. Light is really important for strong plant growth, and to facilitate that, I'll be cutting back some of these overhanging branches like I did last spring, and this whole shrubby area here needs regular trimming back. That improves general airflow, obviously light levels, and it makes it a lot easier to move around the beds. Last growing season was pretty successful, and while there were a few setbacks like the dreaded tomato blight, there was plenty to pick as well. This bed here had some beautiful sweet corn in, and for the first time I tapped the stems to evenly distribute the pollen, which I am convinced helped with the eventual cob fill. Over here stood a beautiful bean arch, really prolific, and it looked just stunning. And those sweet, crisp carrots, well, what a treat. Now it's time to plan what's going to grow where for the new growing season. This garden generally gets the afternoon sunshine, so we need to consider shadowing. In this temperate climate, most plants like to grow in full sunshine, and lots of shadow is rarely a good thing, so let's bear that in mind. It means that the taller crops are going to grow behind me in these beds at the back, or the new beds that will replace them. The sweet corn will grow probably here. I'll have climbing beans in this general area here. And then in the corner, I'd like to grow some Jerusalem artichokes or sunchokes. I'm really keen to incorporate more perennial vegetables into the garden. And then in the middle beds here, we'll have our next tier down. That'll be things like taller leafy greens and tomatoes, for example. And then in the front here, shorter crops. So salads, root crops, and all taking care to consider crop rotation. What I'm working on here is a follow-on plan from last year's plan, and that's actually really handy because watch this. If I select tomatoes here, you can see it's flashing up red here, and that's because I grew them in this bed last year, so I know to plant them somewhere else for crop rotation. So let's just put them over here. There we go, that's better. I love playing around with my plan, and that's half the fun, the whole process of just messing around with it until you get it just right. And any changes I make outside here, I can save once I get back inside and online. I think I will pick some chard for dinner. Actually, that's a really handy feature of the garden planner. You can enter into the accompanying garden journal exactly when you sow and tend your crop, as well as what and when you harvest. And this then creates a really neat summary in the garden planner, all at your fingertips. That's really handy. You can see here that I picked an awful lot of chard last year, so it's a definite yes for chard in this year's plan. Last year I included some companion plants in the form of vegetable garden friendly flowers. There were marigolds here and in other parts of the raised beds, and nasturtiums elsewhere in the garden. As well as adding a cheering splash of colour, they also helped to attract beneficial insects, improving the general health of these crops. so I'm keen to include even more of them this year. I'll add them to my plan, and I'm safe in the knowledge that any space lost to vegetables will be more than made up for in the general health of the crops. I'm also really keen to group plants together that naturally benefit each other, and this is where the garden planner's new evidence-based companion planting feature really comes into its own. It's a really rigorous system that's taken many months of research and development, and I have to say, I really love it. When I select a crop and then tap on the companion planting icon, it lists the companions for that crop and which way the benefits lies. This crop here has a double-ended arrow, so let's pick it up. We'll pick the squash up and drop it between the beans. There we are, and that will now sprawl between them. There we go, job done. This area gets a lot less light than the vegetable beds further up the garden, so I'm thinking of turning it over entirely to soft fruits that will cope, as well as more robust shade-tolerant perennial vegetables like perennial kale. So that'll mean more currants and gooseberries, perhaps actually the ones that we took from cuttings a few weeks back. I'll pop a link to that down below. I'm also going to include a couple of rows of raspberries, which will be really great. They're a really good strong fruit. And some strawberries weaving their way in between. They are, after all, a woodland edge fruit. The object here is to create a dedicated area for lower maintenance crops. Yes, the fruits will need mulching and pruning, but during the growing season, the only job will be limited to just picking the fruits. There'll be some cutting back here as well. Some of these branches need taking back a bit to just get a little bit more light in here because it is quite shady. But with that done, I think this area will thrive. And finally, there's the greenhouse to consider. Now, these straw bales behind me were used to grow a magnificent crop of tomatoes, and we did a video on that technique earlier in the spring, so I'll include a link to that one as well. But look, I just wanted to bring you in and show you this, because these are some of the very last tomatoes I picked later in the autumn, and they've been on the countertop ripening. And we're a couple of days away now from Christmas Day, so I just thought I'd show you, you can have tomatoes at Christmas Day. The straw bales were cleared off recently and I'm going to reuse them. So one of them I'm going to break up and add to the compost heap and use as a mulch around the fruit bushes outside. The other two I'm going to grow some early salads with, so lettuces, spring onions and radishes. I'll cap them with a layer of potting mix or soil, and then I'll sow into that, and they will grow a really early crop, the first salads of the season. Now, my ambitions for this year for the greenhouse are to grow more peppers and tomatoes, but I want to do two things. I want to make a much earlier start to get more of a crop, and I want to invest in some decent sized containers for my peppers to give them more resources to draw on. And I'll be including plenty of companion flowers here as well, so marigolds to ward off the whitefly and some basil for those tomatoes. The coldest weeks are still ahead of us here, but the pause outside offers us a welcome chance to plan our dream garden. There's a real sense of promise, of opportunity, and a tangible sense of optimism in the air. What are your plans for the new growing season? Please do share your hopes and aspirations below. I can't wait to have you alongside me during the course of the coming year. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications on your way out. Go on, ding that notification bell, and let's stay in touch. Until next time, happy planning, and I will catch you next time.